Hi, I'm Kevin Johnston, a sales engineer at CBTS, and today we are at the Lightboard to talk a little bit about Zero Trust and Zero Trust with Palo Alto's product Prisma Access. CBTS was recently named the Palo Alto Managed Service Provider Partner of the Year, and we are really excited for the way that we use Prisma Access to help secure customer environments and also move customers towards a more Zero Trust approach. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. We have a lot of customers that come to us today with a problem. They have users that work everywhere. So we've got some folks that work in their offices, maybe behind an SD-WAN device. We've got plenty of other people that may work from home, and other folks that work on the go. So whether they are working out mobile at customer locations, whether they are working at a coffee shop down the street. And all of those users need access to enterprise resources, and they need unified security policy wherever we're coming from. So one of the principles of Zero Trust that when we talk to customers, when we talk to clients about this solution or this kind of strategy is every flow from every user has to go through a policy enforcement point towards every destination that it goes to. Some of those destinations would be people that might be just reaching out for general web browsing. They might be going towards various SaaS services, so Microsoft or Salesforce, or they might be reaching out to customers' IaaS clouds, so places like if you have resources in AWS, if you have things that you host in Azure, those would all be locations that those users, wherever they are, need access to all of those resources. And not just those things across the cloud and the internet, but also for anything that may still exist in an on-prem data center. We may have resources that live there too, that those users need secure access to, regardless of where they're coming from. And the way that we make sure that every one of those flows goes through a policy enforcement point, regardless of where we're destined to, is we put Prisma's Palo Access, is we put Palo Alto Prisma in the middle of those flows. So the Prisma Cloud that lives out here. We'll talk a little bit about some of the features that go in this Prisma Cloud. Because it's more than a firewall in the cloud. A lot of times when we talk about cloud security, we talk about a firewall in the cloud as kind of the analogy, and it certainly does have a lot of those features. So it does have things like a secure web gateway features built in. Sometimes people will use the acronym for firewall as a service. Additionally, for those mobile users, we can use Palo Alto's Global Protect client to give them secure access to that Prisma Cloud. We can connect it to any variety of SD-WAN services, as well as connections into our data center via service connection. So those users, regardless of where they are, can connect into Prisma to get to secure web gateway services. They can get to firewall services as they're transiting to the internet, as they're going to our on-prem hosted resources in the data center. But additionally, other features that we see in this Prisma Cloud include things like Wildfire, which is Prisma's malware inspection tool. We see things like DNS security, which is a native feature inside of the Prisma Access licensing, as well as kind of common standard features that we see, things like SSL decryption, and things like IDS, IPS, that we would expect in a modern firewall or security tool. So that Prisma Cloud, all of our users connect to it, and all of our flows pass through it, whether we're going to AWS, whether we're going to SaaS, whether we're going to the internet, or our data center. And as we do that, there are other tools that we can start to build into that same feature set. So when we're going to something like a SaaS tool, we can apply CASB features to secure access to those SaaS applications. When we're going to infrastructure as a service, AWS or Azure, we can apply things like DLP, where we're monitoring traffic and inspecting to make sure that we're not losing data or the data is being handled responsibly as we're accessing it in those clouds. And that can apply to any of these infrastructures that we're going to. So when we work with our clients and talk through how we move towards a zero trust strategy, a zero trust framework, a lot of times we see something like Prisma Access being central to that deployment so that we can secure every user to every destination, regardless of where they're coming from and regardless of where they're going to. Thanks.